Hello, my name is Father Lawrence Jagdfeld. I am a Franciscan friar of the Sacred Heart Province, and I am the administrator of CUSA, an apostolate of persons with chronic illness and or disability. We have reached the beginning of yet another liturgical year. And with the beginning of this liturgical year, on this first Sunday of Advent, we will be beginning our journey through the Gospel of St. Matthew. For the past year, we have been listening to the Gospel of St. Luke, who was a Gentile and someone who had never eyewitnessed any of the events of Jesus' life. In Matthew, we will be listening to someone of the Jewish faith and also one of Jesus' disciples. Matthew's gospel is therefore quite different than what we hear from Luke. In Matthew, we will be listening to him as he explains Jesus' ministry to the Jewish community, those who had been converts to Christianity, the Jewish community of Jerusalem. And in his attempt to make that explanation very clear, he will reference the Old Testament more than any of the other evangelists. Today we read from the 24th chapter of Matthew's Gospel. Jesus said to his disciples, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. In those days before the flood they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day that Noah entered the ark. They did not know until the flood came and carried them all away. So will it also be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be out in the field, one will be taken and one will be left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken and one will be left. Therefore, stay awake, for you do not know on which day your Lord will come. Be sure of this, if the master of the house had known the hour of night when the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and not let his house be broken into. So too you also must be prepared, for at an hour you do not expect the Son of Man will come." As is almost always the case on this first Sunday of Advent, we hear a gospel about the end times. Advent always begins with us considering what it will be like when Jesus returns. Now, this particular community to whom Matthew is preaching didn't really spend a great deal of time reflecting on the future. Just the opposite is true of our own society and our own culture. We tend to spend a great deal of time preparing for the future, preparing for retirement, preparing for the day when we will be free to do as we please. We look forward to that day, and we lay aside resources so that we will be able to enjoy our latter years. This people, however, lived a subsistence kind of existence. They were told by Jesus to pray for their daily bread, not tomorrow's bread. They were concerned about earning a wage so that they could feed their family today. And when Jesus tells them that they will be expecting him to return, they don't think that far in the future. They expect Jesus' return to be rather imminent. But as we all know, history has unfolded and left us with over 2,000 years since Jesus' first advent to this earth. So how are we to live with this gospel message? How are we to make it part of our lives? The Jewish community obviously needed to hear Jesus tell them to be awake, to be on guard, because of the fact that this gospel was written 80 AD, 70 AD, maybe 50 years after Jesus died and rose from the dead. And so it is that they are beginning to become concerned about whether or not they have been led down the garden path. Is this really something that they should be expecting, Jesus' eventual return? For us, it has been much longer than 50, 60 years since Jesus' death and resurrection. But the message is still the same. We need to be awake. We need to be on guard. We need to be prepared. This time of the year, for those of us living in the Northern Hemisphere, is usually a time when we wrap ourselves in our Afghans, sit before the fire, and warm ourselves while the weather outside becomes rather inhospitable. We become drowsy. You might even say we, like much of the natural world, hibernate a little bit. So this gospel is warning us that we need to be awake. We need to be on guard. Jesus' return will come at a time when we do not know it is here. And if that is going to be the case, then we need to be prepared for it. For more information about CUSA, please visit our website at www.qson.org or look us up on Facebook.